welcome to That's So Nova. I'm Nova, and this is your first time here. Welcome. If this is a returning subscriber watching, thank you for watching. Today we're going to be doing a new, pattern tutorial for Georgina Convertible Tote from Deja Designs. That is a new designer for me to do a pattern from, so I'm pretty excited. When I was asked by a fellow sewist, her name is Dalva, if I would do a if I can do a tutorial for this bag, and I was like, I'm more than willing. I reached out to the designer. She gave me her permission. So I'm really excited to do this because this tote is super cute and it's very unique. I'm going to link, of course, where you can get the pattern and the designer's website, but there is a YouTube video with, I believe, the designer showing you all the things that this tote can do. It could be a shoulder bag with 2 straps, or a shoulder bag with 1. It could be a backpack. It could be a crossbody bag. It could be a lot of things, and it's really pretty cool. And she has really unusual techniques that I was excited to read about and learn. So without further ado, let's look at the Georgina Convertible Tote. Now, with this tote, like I said, has shoulder bags. You can turn into a backpack, crossbody, or bag. There is an interior slip pocket, a zipper pocket, an exterior slip pocket, and a zipper pocket. There's over 250 pages in this tote. And at first when I was like, I was like 250 pages, she goes into great detail. So before you start this, you're going to be like, oh, cool, like I can do this and that. She gives not only the information in imperial, but also in metric. She goes over, interfacing, hardware. You're going to need 4 D-rings. You're going to need 1 adjustable slider, 6 swivel hooks, 4 O-rings, and a magnetic snap, and zipper ends and strap ends. I'm going to show you how to do some different things so that can help you with hardware. Like, I like to do different things for zipper ends, and I will show you that, and I can save you 6 strap ends. I like to do different things for strap ends. And we're going to use also some double cap rivets and some zipper. So the big part of this bag is really reading the prep work. If you do the prep work, I think everything else will flow. I also recommend keeping your pattern pieces with your fabric pieces, so that way you can just go with it. Just go with it. So she shows you in the front what her exterior pieces are and what the lining pieces are in the front of the bag and what each pictures are. But the page that will help you out tremendously is page 6. I absolutely adore and appreciate so much when a designer puts the anatomy of the bag. So you see the front of the bag and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this and that. But if she shows you how the bottom is going to look, you can choose if you want a different accent feature on the bottom, what you want for the straps, what you want for the D-rings, and so on and so forth. It helps you out so much in the long run. Okay, she has your cutting chart and how you prep and interface. And I'm going to show you, like, I keep the pattern pieces with it, and I mark the lines that she has on the pattern. I feel like that is super crucial in this part. So on the bottom, to save time, I installed my purse feet. On the bottom, you're going to put your center lines and your center lines on all 4 sides. You're going to fuse. She prefers 2 layers Decoville heavy, and that's what I did. I put 2 layers on, and I put my purse feet on, and then to keep the layers to stay still, I just did a quick diamond and down the center, so that way that it's not going to go anywhere. Because sometimes with the kind of vinyl that I got, unfortunately, this was in the back of my vinyl stash, and now I know why. I hate when there is like a fuzzy background, because it adheres really fast, but it also lifts really fast with with any kind of and I had this cooling overnight, so I just wanted to make sure it stayed. And then I put my purse feet in and put some electrical tape on it. I also thought what you can do before you do this step, since you're using 2 layers of Decovil Heavy, iron on your first one and then put the purse feet in, and then iron on your second one on top of it. Therefore, you don't need the tape, and you know there's not going to be any friction between the 2 layers. That's just a thought. So we have that. You make sure, again, that you mark your centers and your sides on each piece. That's on page 10. So on page 11, she goes into great detail about your main panel pieces and how it needs to be a 1/2 inch away from each side. I'm using Bouncy Firm Heavy. I believe Serial Bag Maker has 2. There's light and heavy, and I believe I'm using the heavy, but don't quote me on that. I want to say it is. I feel like it is. I'm going to go with heavy. And I did mark on here your centers, and then I marked a 1/2 inch all the way around. On your recessed zipper panel, the same thing. You're going to have it all the way around, and you'll be fine. So it's mostly prep work. Again, with your pattern, you're going to need your pattern piece B and C. Keeping them all together. And marking your centers. Mind the dog hair. I'm sorry. Loki's like, it's getting winter. It's getting to fall. And for some reason, his hair is just like everywhere. And he looks like he has no hair. If you see him in my other videos popping his head, and he has no hair. You would think it's my other dog, but it's 100% him. Like, 100%. So we're going to mark our centers because these lines are important because they're going to be parts that we're going to be cutting this in half, and they become, 2 parts of C and 2 parts of B. And I have Decovil light running through them. Anything with straps, I always put Decovil light. It just helps tremendously. And we're going to work on C first. And I'm keeping the pattern piece right here on the side because when I'm done cutting this in half, I want to have it. So what she does is with pattern piece, pattern piece B too. Hold on. With pattern piece B, she cuts them first and then sews them separately. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the marks that she has. I'm going to fold over the paper on the lines, draw with my Choco pen across here, and before I cut it, I'm going to actually I'm going to make it as one and cut them. And I'm using just like a gray vinyl. I have a shop on Etsy, so what I do is when I have a little extra money, I like to buy from small shops on Etsy that sell vinyl, cork, or even leather, because I'm supporting a small business, especially if it's here in the USA. Then I'm supporting another fellow small business person. And so the problem is with this is that I gain a vinyl stash, and then people are like, where did you get your vinyl? And you're like, I bought it like 2 years ago. And the bad part about it is I bought so much stuff on Etsy, I can't go back 2 years ago. From embroidery to family gifts. It is what it is. So I marked the centers on the outside and on the end, so I know where I'm going to cut, and we're going to use double-sided tape and stick this down. Now, if your machine is like, oh no double-sided tape, you can totally, and as you see, it's right here, you can always use like Magna-Tack or Fabri-Tac. I use this a lot. It dries surprisingly fast, and it doesn't gum up your machines. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go top stitch all of these at 3/8 of an inch first, and then 1/8. And I'm just putting the B and C right by each other. So when I get to the edge, I'm going to go over like 2 stitches and go 3/8 of an inch going down the other direction. I am using Text 70 Amon thread. Yeah, Amon thread, and it's navy blue. And then I'm going to hop on over 2 more stitches, and then actually 3. And I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch down. Okay, I'm going to hop over like 3 or 4 stitches. 1 more stitch. And then I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch down on the other side. Okay. Trim my threads. Okay, and we have our 2 pieces. Okay, and then if your chalk mark disappeared like mine's did, then just draw it again. Both sides are even. And this is going to now be the 2 connectors for piece C, sticking my PC pieces to the pattern piece, and do the same thing. You can use a Tandy leather pen. Okay, sometimes Tandy leather pens come out like that for me, and other times I'm like sitting here using baby oil, trying every trick underneath the sun to get it out. So I have a tendency now using chalk. Yes, it wipes off fast, but that's the beauty of it. It wipes off fast. So we have our pattern piece B's and C's. Now top stitch 3/8 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch on the top, on the sides. Putting our pieces together. And we are going to now grab the main connector piece. This is super interesting. You definitely do not want to not have your pattern pieces with you when you're doing this, because she has very specific marks to make her magic. And you just have to follow the process and just have everything with you. It will make your life a whole lot easier. Especially if I can get the pattern piece. I promise you I had it with me. Here it is. Okay. So on the pattern piece, she has markings, how you cut them out, how you cut the pattern out. Then she has markings where you put down for, you're going to have for where the O-ring is going to be placed. So you just fold that part down. Draw with your Tandy leather pen or chalk pencil. Then she has where, sorry, I have the wrong one, where the O-ring placement. So where the O-ring placement is. And then she has where the top stitching placement is. And I'm just trying to make this even as possible. So I'm going to put this on the side, and you use your piece again, your pattern piece, to fold in half, make your center marks, and you put your Decaville light right on the top. This is where your if I can talk. This is where your O-ring is going to be connected to, and the deco light will help strengthen the area because vinyl can and does stretch all the time. So from here, we're going to remove the paper tape, and we're going to fold this where the centers are butting up. The only good thing about this fuzzy backing thing is that it does stick to double-sided tape pretty well sometimes. But I'm not a fan of vinyls that have fuzzy backs. And you just roll it, have your center, have your marks there. Then we're going to, you can mark on the back and you mark on the front. That's why I did it in the beginning so you can see in the back and the front. And you're going to get a ruler, and you can take a rotary cutter and trim this off, or you can grab a pair of scissors if you're at your sewing desk and trim it so it's even across the board. Then we're going to be doing some top stitching. The top stitching is on page 16. I'm going to move some of these items so that way I don't knock them down. We're going to start at the top stitching line because on your pattern piece there is, remember we did the O-ring and the top stitching ring. Stop top stitching mark. If I can talk. And I should have used contrasting thread. I didn't think of that at first because I usually like to use contrasting thread as it is, but I am not too sure why I did not do that. So I have, again, navy. You're going to hold your threads and you're not going to back stitch, and you're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch. Going across the top. Going down 1/8 of an inch. Not dropping everything like I am. Cut your threads. You're going to, you can grab a pen, whatever you have that is easy. You're going to pull up these one loop. You tug on the thread, the bobbin thread, and it'll release a loop from the top thread. And then you're going to just tie it off. And I usually do 3 or 4 knots. It all depends and on how secure I think the thread is and how much like pressure is going to be going into a stress point. So I'm going to trim the threads a little bit, and I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it on the back where the top stitching begins and down the center. And then I'm just going to trim the threads that did not get like basically taped down. And we have this beautiful piece. Once we have that piece, then we grab our O-ring and we're going to fold down I should have put the double-sided tape, but I could fix this. If my double-sided tape won't lift. And then I'll grab some more double-sided tape. And this, if you're using 1/4 of an inch, then it won't be in your seam allowance, so it'll be fine. I'm just gonna place it right there, and then we have our O's. Just place a clip. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to get my ring mark, just put a line there. And double-sided tape. I need to get a double-sided tape dispenser. I've seen somebody do it like with a regular tape dispenser, but I don't know. So we're gonna finish these off like this on all four. This is why the pattern piece is so important, because you can make sure everything lines up right, because she gave you the tools you need to do so. And this double-sided tape won't be sewn on necessarily. There's a part you sew a little bit on. It should be fine. If not, then you can always, like I said, Fabri-Tac or Craft Tac. There's a lot of different ones. Magna-Tac. Or you can use the like Dritz wash away or some other kind of form of double-sided tape that doesn't stick it up. Right? I know for a fact Waywack has one that's like it's literally marketed as less sticky, so it doesn't gum up your needles. But it has a really nice hold. Also, you can use children's glue if you're doing this in cotton. You can use children's like glue stick and iron it, and it will work like a charm. So we have all four of our connectors ready to go. I love the shape of these connectors. And again, just taking my pattern piece and trying to have them all be together, even though there's no other shape in the bag that looks like it. It's a good habit to have. Now for the crossbody strap, I'm going to show you something pretty different that I do. I didn't have this strap, I believe, needs to be 65 inches because it's going to turn into a backpack. And there's only 54 inches where it was wide. So I cut roughly like a 14-inch side piece and I connected it. Now, how I connected it is very similar if you do quilting. You go put right sides together or right sides, and then I draw a line from the corner to corner. So you would just take your ruler and draw a line. It's 4 inch diagonally, and then you would sew on this diagonal. Then after you're done sewing, I leave a 1/2 inch seam and I cut the rest off, what you see right here. And I'm going to be using these in a minute to show you how to do different strap ends. Once I have that part done, I grab double-sided tape. Now you could join these like butting right next to each other, but there'll be like a big bulk and it can cause issues when you're trying to use the strap. So I try to reduce the bulk as much as possible. And then I'm taping down with double-sided tape the seam. Now what you can do if you want to, you could flip this around and stitch 1/8 of an inch on both sides. It will be really cool, but it'll be shown that there's no other stitching. I back stitch really well on the beginning and end, like 4 stitches back and forward, so it's not going to go anywhere. So we now have our strap size that we need, and we're going to put some double-sided tape down the center. And I used a nice green pen, so hopefully you guys can see it. I'm using a 1/2 inch double-sided tape. You can use like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch on both sides and bring it in. I just always use down the center. trim that. So we're going to fold the long edges in. So there's about a 1/16 of an inch seam. I mean, not seam, space in between. So you're going to fold, but just not all the way towards the line. Just leaving a little bit of space. Especially where you get, when you have that little bit of extra bulk. You want that space. And take your time. There's no race. Do this so that way it doesn't shift and it's all even. Okay. Leaving that 1/16 of an inch. I know my hands look super messy. I burned myself this week. I have cut myself with scissors. Sewing today, weekend has been like a sewing disaster 101. And I'm just going to go over to this area. See how it's kind of lifting? I'm just going to grab my seam roller and like smush it down a little bit. Readjust it to make sure that it has a nice space. Again, if you're doing this with cotton, you can just hit it with some steam. So then, oops.
Oh, the blue clips.
And if you're a first-time subscriber here, that is my husband's voice. Okay. Occasionally you will hear him or my puppy. So.
Same mama.
Same mama. That's my boy. I love Loki. He's a good boy. Destructive, but good. So I'm adding some clips, and it helps for the shifting. Sometimes I don't add clips, and then it'll shift a little bit, and then I'm just like, oh man, I should just add clips and I didn't have to redo the strap. Just adding the clips and making sure all the, the two edges line up, it literally is a game changer. Because, yeah, you can get to the point where you don't need any clips, trust me. But sometimes you could just be a little bit off, and it can make it harder for the adjuster to slide up and down the whole 9 yards. So we're going to take this, and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch on both sides. I'm using a 4.5 stitch. And where you see the one here, that is my 1/8 of an inch. And if you notice, it's also the inside of my foot, my toe. And I'm just going to do a couple back stitches. And if you stop, like I just did, make sure you're in the needle down position. Okay. And when I get over here, I'm just going to hop over about probably 4 or 5 stitches. Then I like to hold my hands just like right at the one in this, and then I kind of just let it fly. And we back stitch just to tie off the ends. Okay. So with this, we're going to thread. This is where like the ends come in. I'm going to show you a trick. It's not really a trick, but I'm going to draw a 1-inch. It's easier to do this with your at a cutting mat, and you just can cut it. It'll be more cleaner than using scissors. Then I like to get I just basically cut a rectangle that's 1 inch, a little over 1 inch wide and a little over 2 inches. And then I'm going to take double-sided tape and just put it on the back piece. You can definitely put strap-ins. This is something I actually picked up from another person that I seen do it, and it's just been nice to see because it gives you a really nice, clean, polished look without having, to get more hardware. So on the back pieces, I'm sticking my straps. I'm going to clean up and make sure they're even. There's no extra bits hanging out. And then I'm going to fold this on top of itself, take it over to my machine. And if I could pick up these threads, and apparently I can't, I'm going to stitch on. And when I get to where I know it's on the beginning and end, I do a back stitch. Then I'm going to bring this over. And then we back stitch beginning and end on this. Okay. So I didn't back stitch in the center because we're going to cut it. All right. So we cut it, but see, you have these really cool strap-ins, and they come from the scraps that you just made. So like, I love that. It makes my life easier, and it's a cool little feature to have. So I'm going to grab my buckle, and I'm going to, use the little flames to get those strap-ins real quick. Okay, I'm going to slide this in. And I'm going to punch a hole in the center. Okay. So I'm sorry, for the crossbody we have marks, measurements on both ends if I stop jumping ahead. I'm going to grab my marking tool. Okay. We're going to punch a hole 5/8 of an inch from the end. And one at 1 3/8. I'm using a cheap Westcott ruler that you can pick up at Amazon. They're relatively inexpensive. They're like sometimes like $3 or $4, and they're my favorite ruler. Then we're going to have the holes at 3 3/8 of an inch from the top. And 4 1/8. We're going to do the same thing on the other end. It's a long strap, so just work with it. So again, we're going to do 5/8 of an inch from the bottom of the strap. Then 1 3/8. And 3 3/8. And 4 1/8. Okay, so then I'm going to get my handy dandy hole puncher and punch the holes out. So altogether on the crossbody strap we should have 8 holes. Okay, if I was not filming, I would be using my small hole puncher. I think this is it doesn't have any marks, but as you can see, it's always full. I rather go in and hammer in my drill bits. It's easier than the rivet press, but I can see there's definitely perks of having the rivet press. So we're going to put our strap in. Feed it through, and then we're going to place these rivets. So I need 4 rivets altogether. The male and female portions. Okay, I've got those. All right, so now we're going to put through, and if you see your rivet, if your rivet head, when you put the mel in and it's not flush, it can even be 1/8 of an inch, but if it starts becoming 1/4 or whatever, it's not going to set correctly, and it can be not awesome when rivet pops out, or it just weakens it. So just make sure it's flush. There's so many different sizes out. Then I'm going to grab my rivet press, and I got this from Minkus and Margot off of Etsy. I've had it for like almost 3 years, and it's one of my favorite tools. I can feel it set after like 2 small little pushes, and then I'm going to grab our swivel clasp and feed one through it. Make sure everything's straight, nothing's all twisty, because then you're going to have to remove some rivets, and that's not fun. Okay. Nothing's twisty. And then I'm going to grab the other swivel clasp and put it through, thread it through. Just triple checking that nothing's all twisty, because I have done that countless times where I was just in a rush and it did not work out for me. We're going to do the same thing on this side. I love the measurements because I like it's no eyeballing it. It's just nice and easy when you have to set it. I love that. I really appreciate that. And it's something I'm probably going to start implementing in any bag that I make, because that is great. Whenever I have a pattern and someone does something awesome, like this is a 1-inch strap, right? Most patterns have a 1-inch strap, and like this technique is so cool that I may laminate this and like put it near me by a wall. I cannot tell you how many wall like things I have around that just has really cool measurements that I want to implement on a day-to-day basis. So here is the crossbody strap. We have that. And then you're going to have two regular swivel straps that are on the main of the bag. You do the same thing we did with this. We're going to do the 4 together, 1/8 of an inch down the side. There's measurements to place your rivets, and you have 2 of them. I wanted to have something a little bit different, so I have the main crossbody being gray, because my bag is going to be gray and blue. So with that, you see, I had scrap water resistant canvas, and I used them as the persons. And I don't know, I like them as a strap-in. They're very unique and different. I love things that are different. All right, so we're done with all the prep work on page 20. What we're going to start now is making the zipper overlay in the center of the interior bag. Okay, so I still have a thread that needs to be, okay, there we go. So from here, we're going to take your pattern piece, and you use a chalk pen, tandy leather pen, whatever is at your convenience, and you draw out the box that's inside of the pattern piece onto your pattern. Cut that out, you draw it, and then it'll give you perfect pattern pieces that you need to put your zipper pocket overlay on. So you're going to start on one side, not back stitch, go down and across 1/8 of an inch, and then you pull your threads to the back and you tie them off. Okay, and then we are going to do the same thing to the main exterior. So let me grab one of the main exteriors, and so that way you can see this overlay being done. I want to make sure that I should have drew a T on the top that I want, but I can see the blue line is up here. So I'm going to grab my pattern piece, and then I'm going to lay it on my pattern, and then you can just grab like some scissors or something else that could be a paperweight while you're doing this. And just for the sake of the video, I'm going to mark it with the tandy leather pen in case I have to do placement. You just want everything center as possible, and then you're going to draw your box And so you have the exact placement. And then she also does give you guidelines, like if ruler wise, to see if you, I'm just going to make this a neater line. She gives you ruler measurements, how far you go down and how much you have to go inside, just in case you're like, hey, I don't have my pattern piece by me. So let me grab the overlay of this, and it is pattern piece G. And I am going to take some double-sided tape. And this is 1/4 of an inch double-sided tape. Okay, and then I'm going to take off the backing, the paper tape. And then I'm just going to this tape is like, I'm ready to stick. So I'm just going to match up the sides. And if you have vinyl that stretches kind of like this one, you can interface it with like a Shape Flex 101 or a Woven Fix or whatever you use for your woven interfacing, and it helps with it not stretching. So now we're going to go over here and we're going to do what I said. We're going to start on one side and do 1/8 of an 1/8 of an inch all the way around. If your machine does not like double-sided tape, you can glue this down as well. So we're going to use 1/8 of an inch, have longer tails, because we're going to pull them, and we're not going to backstitch. Take your time. If you're like me, you're like, hey, this is not lining up right, just take your time. That's the great thing about double-sided tape, especially the one that is not the permanent one. Like there's a there's a couple different ones I get. I do get the permanent one from like Waywack, but there's also this leather one that you can reposition your stuff on your bag without it messing with, like ripping off a layer of your vinyl or whatnot. I'm going to, when I did the last stitch, the needle got gummed up from the double-sided tape, so it did not do this last stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking a needle, I'm threading. I don't think this one's on the thread. I think glue stuck in that one. Hold on. I usually have like a couple needles around. But when you unclog them for a glue bottle, it makes the eye a little bit harder. I'm going to take this top thread and I'm going to put it in that hole that it skipped and bring it to the back. And I could do the same thing with this. You could pull your threads, but sometimes when it's like top stitching like this, I'll just bring it to the back. Nobody will know. If you're pulling them, you just need to pull the bobbin thread until you get a loop. And once you get that loop, you can pull through the loop and you can bring the top thread through. And you're gonna tie these off a couple times, and you can drop a bead of glue, burn them, whatever method works for you. Okay. So oh yeah, see, and I even have a weird stitch there. So what I can do is I can grab some thread real quick and I will show you a trick. Everyone gets weird stitching occasionally. It happens. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this over, go to the hole that it skipped, the things we do for bags. Bring this over. And put it through the hole. Now when I do that, I'll take both of the threads back here and tie them off, just like I did over there on the other side. And again, nobody will know. It'll be your little secret, but it's just something I have noticed, because no matter what machine you have, you can get skip stitches. It just could be because the corner, whatever have you, like, it happens. And then you can just take your scissors and snip that one that messed up and kind of fray it with a lighter, and I'll show you. Ta-da! Now you'll see that diagonal skip stitch. Magic. All right. So once we have that, we pulled our threads to the back, we're gonna now cut out the center. And I just do a snip. And I like to do it from the front, so that way I don't accidentally cut into my zipper placket or facing. And then I'll bring it to the back. So the moral of the story is, if you have skip stitching, a needle is your friend, a hand sewing needle, and everything will be great. Are you looking for snacks? Mm-hmm. All right.
Sorry, Mommy.
Then, let's see. That's all cut out. We have our placket there. And then let me grab the one that we did on the cotton. And you see here, you could put like a little name tag or a label, and it'll be cute too. There's so many creative people that make these awesome labels now. And it's amazing. It's not, I see a lot of people in different groups talking about how can I fix my stitching, and I mean my machine's messed up on this. Sometimes it's not about the machine, it's about how you know how to fix things. Figuring out, having a problem and being able to fix it is the key to sewing, because I think that's like a never-ending process. There's no master of fixing it, so you're constantly learning on how to fix your own mistakes and probably help others too. So don't give up. Keep practicing. We all get better. I'm forever trying to get better. So once we have that, we're going to do some zippers. We're going to need two 8.5 inch zippers. And the zipper tape I'm going to be using is right here. Yay, Nova. Okay. So I'm going to okay. All right. So 8.5. What I like to do is I'll grab, my beacon is just like bubbling over here. I'll grab my ruler and I'll measure the 8.5. Cut it and immediately fray it, and then do the same thing. Grab the other 8.5. My crazy tape that you see, I believe this is from my handmade space. Like for my blue in antique, I always go to her. 1, because fast shipping. 2, it's just really pretty. It looks really classy. The zipper pulls I'm using are from Zipper Valley. She has some of the best zipper pulls ever. She has beautiful tape as well. I love supporting small businesses everywhere. I believe she's in Canada. She has pretty good shipping, and she does have like very unique zipper pulls. Like I love these. These look like the soda pop tabs. Like how cute is that's really cute. So you need to open your zipper up, and then each one of them are protected. So I like that too. And you're going to make sure that the teeth match up. Once they do, you push it down. And it should be fine. Then I'm going to get these spray ends. Ooh, the smell of burnt zipper tape. That's what you wake up to the morning to. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we have our zipper pulls on. And we're going to get some double-sided tape. I'm just going to put it on the ends so that way it like stays in place while we're sewing. And not my bandage, Nova. Okay, so we're going to start with, because I have the lining here, so we'll start with the lining. I'm going to take the zipper, and you want to make sure your zipper goes to either the left or right, whatever direction you want. It is actually, it's personal preference. It truly is. There's some people that like it zipping to the right. I mean, like I have my youngest daughter, she's left-handed, so she actually likes when my zippers are not installed correctly because it goes like naturally with how she zip up things. Sometimes I wonder if that's what her issue is with zipping up her backpack. So it has one zipper pull. Her backpack that she has for school drives me nuts, and the only reason why she wants this backpack is because it's purple. So as you see, I laid this down. That's the only reason. I'm gonna find some really cool purple fabric, and yeah, it has one zipper pull. I have this thing with backpacks. I believe that you need to have 2 zipper pulls because one zipper is bound to mess up. That's inevitable. It's gonna happen. So having that second one could be a lifesaver for your bag. So as you've seen, as I was talking, I just put it down the center and bada bing, we got that. So we're gonna grab we're gonna get our piece K, which is the zipper pocket linings, and I'm gonna grab 2 and put the other 2 on the side. We're going to stitch down the bottom with, take one of the zipper pockets, and you're gonna use masking tape, or you can use double-sided tape, which I'm gonna use double-sided tape. I mean, I should have stock in this stuff by now. I'm just throwing that out there. Double-sided tape. You can use Scotch tape too, but I don't have Scotch tape to show you right now. So, but I'll show you like how you would do it. So instead of putting this double-sided tape, you would place this down with the fabric, if it's directional, facing down. And you will put the double-sided tape, the tape right here. So that way you can sew through it. Masking tape is like a awesome tool to use in sewing. Same with painter tape, because you can stitch through it and it doesn't gum up your needles. There's also medical grade tape, which I seen somebody do on YouTube, and I was like, that is pretty cool. I might have to try that one.
You might not be able to use it.
It doesn't stick, the medical, the paper tape.
The tape you might be allergic to.
Oh, I know, but I'm allergic to double-sided tape, but I still...
I didn't know that.
I'm allergic to adhesive, period. So I'm going to take one of these. That's why my Band-Aids, like I always wind up not using the Band-Aid. I'm going to place this raw edge to raw edge of the zipper tape, and I'm going to finger press it. Now, if you were using not double-sided tape, Scotch tape, you would just like use your... This is electrical tape, but you will put a piece of tape right here just to hold it so we can do this next part. And if you notice, she has clips to hold this in place too. And we're going to sew along the bottom, leaving long tails because we're going to pull them from to the back. Long tails and no back stitching. I know that's hard, but we got this. And once you get to your zipper pull, if it's in your way, stop with your needle down and move your zipper pull. I'm using a narrow foot on my machine, so the zipper pull really doesn't get in the way. I'm used to putting my hand on it because I don't want it to get so over it and break a needle. Okay, long tails. We're going to bring this to the back. And you can see that we sewed over it. We're going to pull the bobbin thread up. And I'm going to grab my handy dandy needle and just pull the top thread from that loop. And we're going to tie it off. And trim. And do the same thing. Let's see. And then we're going to fold this down, and just to help those zipper tails stay in their place, I'm going to take some glue that's bubbling now, because I don't know what it is about this glue. When it bubbles if you don't have its cap on it immediately. All right, and I'm going to take it, move my needle back to the magnet, and we have that finger press down. Okay, we have that down. And now we're going to grab the top fabric, and I'm going to remove the double-sided tape. Everything's sticking to me now. And place the top raw sides to the zipper. Just finger press that down. And to keep this out of the way, you can hit it with some glue or double-sided tape, whatever you have. If you're doing this with cotton, you can use a glue stick and then hit it with a dry iron, and it'll stay. I'm just gonna roll this out, and it'll stay a little bit better. We're going to now come here. We're going to go up, across, and down. Long threads, so we're going to pull them through. And then we're going to pivot. Long threads. We're going to bring these back. Pull on that bobbin. Get that top. Okay. All right, so we have that done, and then we're going to go to page 26, and we're going to match up these two pieces right here, and then we're just going to cut them so they're even. Trim the bottom layer so it's even. It's like weird. Sometimes I like the perfect measurements for the top and bottom, but then I'll get mixed up and I'll put the bottom on the top, and then I'm just like frustrated. So I weirdly appreciate this. And then we're going to trim off the excess, and then we're going to sew up the side seams. And I'm just going to make, I call them lips. Like I'm just folding like a 1/4 of an inch in. So we're going to use this pocket for the line, helping with pulling out the bag. And I just like a really clean finish. So I fold it towards itself. So we're going to take to this machine, and we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch down both sides. Back stitch at beginning and end real well. I should have left the clip in. Really? It wants to unfold like right when we get to the back stitching. Then I'm just going to bring my threads over here and sew this at 1/4 of an inch the other direction. And let me trim the threads. we have one pocket done, and we're just going to repeat it real quickly with this, the back piece. The process should go by faster now because you're like, you did the first one, you're like, yeah, I did this. Okay, so just center, and then we're going to grab our 2 pieces. This is like a double-sided tape up machine right now. Honestly, though, if I wasn't on camera, I'd probably be using my glue and just waiting, grabbing a snack, drinking something, because it only takes a minute for the glue to dry.
Listening to your stories.
Yeah, I'm audible in it. Listening to some true crime. Oh, I'm really into true crime, or like murder mystery stories. I have this thing. My latest like whole thing I like to listen on to is like a time period, like the Gilded Age in New York or Jack the Ripper. So like I have no idea why. If you want a more even accurate, you can put like a mark where you want to start and stop to make sure that you got the bottom exactly how you want it. And just remember, you're going to be, one stitch is going to automatically be pulled to the back. So keep that in mind. Long tails. But what I try and true when I'm listening to my favorite book is The Name of the Wind. Patrick, if you're ever watching this, you need to come out with a 3rd one. It's been like 9 years. What's up, dude? What's up? Don't be a George R.R. Martin and be like, oh, my thing's turned into a series, so I'm going to leave you guys in suspense. Yeah, I feel like I'm forever cursed because every book series I ever read, there's like a book, the last book that I'm waiting for, and you're just like, come on, guys, let's finish these books. But if you ever have a chance to read Name of the Wind, and if you ever see my book tour, I have Name of the Wind like literally right up by BB-8. It's a phenomenal book. It needs to become a series, and when it does, and if it does, because it seems like all the books I ever read now are becoming series. Like I was really into Discovery of Witch, and then when I found out that they were going to do a book series, a TV series, it totally flipped out. I was like so excited because I was like, this is such a phenomenal book, and people are missing out. But The Name of the Wind needs to become a book. I need to see someone become Quoth. Okay, pulling this down, pressing it with double-sided tape. And the double-sided tape will actually help hold those threads that I tied off. We're going to put this up to the zipper tape, finger press it, bring it over to the machine, not break the clip. And if you want, you could put dab of glue, or like I said, little scraps of double-sided tape or Scotch tape, whatever you want to hold down the threads. But after like 3 or 4 knots, it's really not going to go anywhere. You can also, you know, burn them, melt them, so that extra security. Sometimes the security of just makes you feel like, okay, this bag is good to go. We're not going to be turning anything in this pocket, so we're going to close it off. And if you were going to burn it, you would just melt it and then pat it down a little bit. It's quite cool. Let's see. And then we're just trimming up to make sure that they're even. And then we're going to do 1/4 of an inch all the way up and then across. Back stitch really well at the beginning and end. So that pocket is all trimmed up and you're ready to go. You have a nice, no lining showing, no zipper teeth showing, just really lovely. So then now we're going to grab our interior slip pocket, and she does have recommendations on here. If you look at the pattern piece has like one big pattern, one piece of fabric just like this. If it's a directional, she suggests you to fold the pattern piece at the dotted lines and create 2, and then you're going to make right seams touch together, so that way it's fine. But as you can see on here, this Doctor Who print is a damask and there is no direction, so that's the reason why I picked it. We're going to put where it is wrong seams, right sides together, and I interfaced mine with Woven Fix, so it has like a really lush feel. This is like canvas on top of it. I just like a really sturdy slip pocket. So we're gonna base this down or sew this down at 1/8 of an inch. And what I'm gonna do after we sew it down, I'm going to trim off this excess interfacing. We're going to put the trim on it. Just this excess white, because sometimes when I like to fuse blocks, so like you have a piece of interfacing and you just like take your fabrics and you fuse it on top and call it a day. Like you don't trim everything like you're supposed to. Then we're going to take our trim just seen you. Where did you go, trim? Where did you go? Every single time. I just seen it. I know I did. If not, oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to be organized, but you know, it happens. I'm going to take double-sided tape, and you can use glue if your machine can handle it. Double-sided tape. This I'm not a fan of this vinyl. It's just when it has a really fuzzy back like this, it has a tendency of stretching, because normally I wouldn't even use double-sided tape on this. I would just clip it on, but the stretch on this particular vinyl is, I always forget about it. It's just not the best. And the double-sided tape actually acts kind of like a stabilizer in a way. And if you want, you can take your ruler, because this is a 1-inch piece, and draw out the half of inch, so that way you can line this all up in one piece to make it even. So I'm going to take off one side, line it up. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other side and fold it over. And we get this really nice trim feature for the bag. And we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. I have to thread my needle again, 1/8 of an inch, top stitch, and I like to back stitch back, just a few stitches back and forth. Trim. Trimming the excess. I have like a lot of excess shape flex on here. Okay. Trimming the excess shape flex, and we have a nice pocket. We're going to go to page 27, and we're going to grab one of our linings, and it's the one without the zipper pocket. Again, the pattern pieces are really pivotal, like really important at this point, because we are going to, there are marks for where the slip pocket should be placed. And what I'm going to do is I'm folding over the pattern piece to where the bottom should lay. And I'm going to lay this on the top to match. Grab a pair of scissors or whatever you can for like glue. And I'm going to grab my chalk pencil, because you could just brush off chalk and just draw that line. And then I'm going to fold again where the slip pocket is. This is like really cool. Her pattern pieces are very unique because it helps. I feel like this is a pattern that really tries to help you when if you're at your sewing table and you don't want to go back to your like cutting space or whatever. Like, I feel like that helps. You don't need it all the way across. Just put a mark on both sides so that you know where to begin and end. That is so cool. That is so freaking cool. Like, I think that is amazing. So now I'm going to put clips, and then there's like no second guessing. I just line it up with the lines and I'm good to go. That is so awesome. I love that. So what we're going to do now is we did our pocket placement. And we're now going to do some top stitching. So we're going to top stitch the bottom edge at 1/8 of an inch. It's not all the way around. We're going to start just at the bottom edge. And I kind of like that because then your pocket's not moving anywhere. So just 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we got the bottom. I'm trimming. Okay. And then we're, interesting. She uses Scotch tape for the slip pocket. Huh. She has the pattern pieces on here too. So I'm going to fold this. Do you guys remember when you were in like elementary school, you would have that paper that you would just, you pick 1 through 6 and you would fold. This is what I feel like I'm doing right now. It's not a bad thing. It's pretty cool. I'm going to draw a chalk line on the first mark and then do it again on the second. She uses like Scotch tape to hold down the top of the bag. I don't have Scotch tape with me, so we're gonna improvise. I'm folding down the lines. And she has 2 lines on here. I kind of like this. This is really cool. Because it's like, you're not like getting, oh, 6 inches to the left, 8.8 and 7 inches. You're like, no, I don't know what 7/8 of an inch is. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, go down again, and then go up. And then I'm going to show you a trick that I do before we do any, there's riveting in here, but there's something I do to make sure that the pocket stays. I'm using all cotton. The trim is the only thing that's not. So I'm just going to stick a pin like right in the center so nothing shifts. And trim this so that way got that flush with that. All right. So I'm going to start here using 1/4 of an inch. Back stitching. I'm going to go down. We're going 1/4 of an inch, so it's 1/8 of an inch above the line that we just made. Unless I did this wrong, her lines are on the pattern, so I think that's, again, that's pretty cool. We're going to go up. And right before you get to the trim, you're going to stop, right? You're going to back stitch. And what I like to do is I like to take it and just bring the material towards me. And I'll go 1 stitch forward, 1 stitch back. It's called a bar tack, and all of the people that do clothes, you know exactly what it is. And what it does is it helps tremendously in an area that gets a lot of stress. And also, if you don't want to put rivets through it, that's another way you can do it. We're now going to bring this over again. Trim the threads here. And we're going to start, grab my threads over here. I have just like everything that piles in the throat of the machine. It's super interesting. What is your method of sewing, Shinova? Chaotic. So I'm going to backstitch and we're going to bar tack immediately on this within the first 2 stitches. Okay. And then I'm going to go down the white chalk line that I made. If you have problems with it being getting a straight line, copy the quilters. The quilters have a lot of cool templates, and this is where these cheap rulers come in place, where you can just follow a line like this, and you know your stitches are going to be okay. Make sure you get a ruler that you're okay with the needle punching through it, like the Westcott ruler. But if you ever watch a quilter and they have like these cool little templates to make like flowers or whatever, they use it's basically just a fancy ruler, which you can do the same thing with a cheap Westcott ruler or whatever ruler that's available to you during back to school. There's always these really cool rulers. And oh, I ran out of bobbin. Duh, Nova, come on. We can't keep sewing without it. All right. Well, I mean, at least it wasn't like top stitching. So there's that. Or when you're doing your straps. I don't like playing Bob and Chicken with that. I'm using a 116 needle. This is a Schmidt, and I'm not too sure if I'm feeling it because the Oregon ones are better with like not gumming up for this particular machine, and this one just I feel like I need to constantly wipe alcohol on it, alcohol pads, but it could just be me today. So I'm gonna go back where my stitches, where the bobbin thread ran out. I'm gonna go back 3 or 4 stitches, hold my threads, and then back stitch in that area, so that way those threads get caught up with the line of stitching I'm doing now. Stopping at 1/4 of an inch, you're gonna pivot. So 1/8 of an inch above the 1/8 that you did earlier. Stop. So 1/4 of an inch up. Another place that you could have had a really cute label is like in between the trim or like on the side of this. It'll be really cool. And then I'm gonna take my my pin out because it doesn't need to hold it anymore. Trim these threads. Now we could place a rivet right here in the center, and I'll grab my hole punch. These pattern pieces are big, so these get lost. Okay, and then you can just eyeball it. You can take a ruler, you can take a marking tool, whatever helps you. And I'm going to place a hole right here, and it went through. And I'm going to grab. I usually tell people to grab a piece of Decovil Heavy or Decovil Light, but I have this beautiful scrap waterproof canvas, and I'm just going to fold it over and punch a hole. And you'll see why. It's similar to what she's doing with a stabilizer, but sometimes if you have like waterproof canvas or anything that's super stable vinyl, you can do this same trick. So you're gonna put the melt in through and see how it's like probably about 1/4 of an inch higher. I'm going to stick this through so that now it's more flush and the rivet won't pull through. And I'm going to grab my rivet press. And press that down. But you also could have not put a rivet there if you wanted, and this could have been like a pencil holder, but I think that when I'm looking at this, I can see why you want to do that, because if you have 3 structures here, it would easily just be easily poppable. Like you could just pop the rivet off. So we're done with that piece. We have the rivets, we have our sides, we have the reinforcements. She says even she says Decovil or Peltex or Cordura. Waterproof canvas is a version of Cordura. Whatever you have samples, your scraps can be used for so many other things. So I'm gonna make sure you stay hydrated. Okay, I'm drinking something. It was Gingerella got me in my throat. I'm okay. I will survive. Okay, so we're going to do the exterior slip pocket. What time is it?
11:14.
Okay, we'll do the exterior slip pocket, and then we'll take a short break and come right back. I'm going to do my slip pocket a little bit different. I have this really cool magnet that I wanted to showcase on the bag. So I'm going to grab my pattern piece and my exterior piece right here. And let me trim off the excess interfacing. I always have like a million little... That's a bad thing about block fusing, or if you're a lazy cutter like I am. You're like trimming at the machine. Okay, so on here, this has where you're going to put the female part to the magnet on the back. This is going to be on your lining piece. I'm doing something different. I'm going to show you my magnet. I have this whole droid thing, so I will get the female piece and we're going to install the magnet, but you can't, if you do it in the lining, nobody's going to see it. So I want it on the exterior so everybody sees it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the female piece and my magnet and put it on the side. I'm going to grab the pattern piece and draw a circle, and hopefully you can see this in this green. Yep. It's dead in the center of the line. Perfect. And we're going to not punch our holes yet, because we're going to have to use both of these. I used a DLH heavy from Sew Your Bag, and it gives it a nice like thick filling. So instead of if you were not doing a fancy magnet like this and you're putting a nice slim magnet in, you would just draw the line and punch the holes and make sure that the back has like Decoville Light, Cador, or whatever, and then you would duct tape it in the back so it doesn't rub against anything. Then you'll put these right sides together and you will sew the curve at 3/8 of an inch. So what I like to do is make sure that these two are lined up really well, and then I'll just clip the sides, and I'll put the heavier fabric up towards me and the lighter fabric towards the bottom, because the lighter fabric will have a tendency of wanting to shift, and the heavier one is going to hold it more, make it more stable. So we're going to use a 3/8 of an inch. If you want you to draw your 3/8 of an inch, I'm just going to follow the 3 on my guide and back stitch really well at the beginning and end. Okay, and then I'm going to, whenever I have a curve, I like to use pinking shears. So that way it gives it a nice, the curve comes out a little better, it reduces bulk. And as you will see, you can do little snips if you don't have pinky shears with like your scissors, like just little snips, and it'll help with that curve. And you're just going to use your body or whatever you gotta use. And let me see, where is, there you are. I'm gonna use my seam roller as the iron, and then we're going to open this up even more, and then we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to install this magnet, and then we're going to go on a little break, and we'll be right back. So my hands look different, you know I stopped the video. One-eighth of an inch. And then just before, just making sure that crease is out. All right, so that's a nice clean pocket. And then I'm going to punch some holes. Now, I know this is always like the scary part for everybody because it scares the heck out of me, but it actually is really cool because it creates this really unique piece. I'm going to put these screws inside. If you don't have a magnetic ball, like having like your scissors or something to hold that they won't roll and move. So the magnet fits like this, so I want to punch my holes like that. You know what I'm gonna do? I should have drawn the green also on that, but I can one-up it by punching a hole through it. I'm going to draw a hole. I feel like I'm not going to see that. It's... All right. I'm going to take the female magnet. These didn't disappear. There you are. I'm going to take the female magnet, put it on the back of this, and press it. Now you can use a pair of backup scissors or something. I have freakishly strong hands, so it is what it is. And I'm going to punch a hole in those. And I'm going to see, make sure that my holes line up, and they do. So then I'm going to drop some glue, especially on the cotton side, because I don't want nothing to fray or weaken the cotton. It's going to bubble over on this side. Grab the backing with the magnet. And if you feel more secure, you could just stick some glue down the center. So you're like, yeah, this magnet's not going anywhere. And of course, my scissors want to hold on to the screws. Well, that magnet's strong. I don't know if you've seen that. And then I'm going to grab my other one. As soon as my see. And then we have a cute little magnet. And it just gives it a little pizzazz. It's a little bit more work, but then it's like a cool feature on your bag. And we're going to take a break because I can hear my puppy going crazy. So for the next part, we're going to be constructing everything together. Okay, so we had our little break. Un momento. Okay, so we had our little break and now we're back. Sorry for the feedback. So now we're going to be working on with the pocket. We made, let me show you over here. We made our front pocket. We sewed them together, right sides together, and you see me put on the magnet. Now we're going to install the Mel magnet. What I like to do, there is a pattern placement on there and it's actually dead on perfect. But just to always make sure that my magnets work together, I like to place the magnet onto itself and then line it up with the center marks. Always find your centers. It helps so much in the long run. So I'm going to use this with my center mark that I have on the back. Place a clip right there. And you just draw two little lines, and it's exactly where the center is on the pattern piece. So kudos to me. Let's see. I'm going to punch holes, slits, not too big of a slit because you don't want it to continue to tear, especially if you're using cotton of any sort. Grab the Mel, and then I'm going to grab some glue. Place the Mel on it. And grab the washer, or at least a washer. And if you hear a kid or a puppy, my daughter is sick with the flu, so she's at home today. So if she calls me and you see like weird breaks, that's because I'm taking care of my little one. Even though she's 12 and she would tell you she's not a little one, but she is forever. All right, so put some electrical tape on the back, and we're going to start with this pocket. So on the pocket, we're going to flip back the main exterior, and I'm going to pop some clips so I can hold it down. And we are going to cut out using a ruler 5/8 of an inch. So you just, from the bottom, measure 5/8 of an inch up, and then we're going to cut that away. And I drew with my little handy pen, and hopefully you can pick it up and see it. From that line that you cut, you're going to draw 3/8 of an inch up. So we are going to, I'm going to snap on my magnet so that way it helps make sure that our placement is aligned. And as you heard, it immediately snapped. So that's good. We are going to, from 3/8 of an inch, we drew that 3/8 of an inch mark. We're going to clip down and pull back and flatten out the exterior where we drew the line. We are on page 7, I said 74. It's page 32, section 74. We're going to do a 1/8 of an inch stitch and then followed by another row of stitches. What I'm going to do to ensure that my line doesn't move while I am while I'm sewing, I'm going to put double-sided tape because I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch above, and it'll be fine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the center here, make sure my magnet's intact, and then I'm just going to finger press this down. See, now when we do these stitches, it's not going to do a whole lot of shifting. So on the 3/8 of the inch mark, we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch. And that's why the double-sided tape really doesn't matter, because it's just holding it down, because you're not going to even be sewing through it. Do 1 back stitch or 2, whatever's easier for you. And then trim. I'm already liking the fact that we're sewing down the lining pocket, because sometimes the lining pocket may not line up, and this ensures that your pocket's not so deep that you have to like put your whole forearm in, and it just makes sure that it's sealed up and you're not getting coins or hair clips or something like tied into the other end. So above this line, we're going to make so another stitch 1/8 of an inch above the line we just made. And double row stitching is another technique I really like. Having a stitch line that's 1/8 of an inch above the stitch line you did. It adds security. I like the way it looks. And when you're sewing on bag bases, it's one of the methods I use too, because it's a cleaner look. So now that we have that all situated, we're going to keep everything lined up. And just pop a clip on there, and then we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch down, across, and top to the top. Sorry, my phone's buzzing a lot. I have it on mute, but you know how that goes. The vibration. And trimming my threads. All right. We have that, and then we can do the exterior tag 2 inches down from the top. So you fold it in half, you find your centers, and then you can just grab your ruler. If you don't have a tag, you don't have to worry about this. If you do have a tag, just, center it, or you put it wherever you want. This is just the designer's aesthetic, and I'm going to put that there. It would be really cool to have a labeled one or a leather one. There's so many different tags now, and I like them all. A handmade. Okay, and then I'm just going to make sure it's centered as best as I can. Draw 2 little lines where my prongs are. Grab my X-Acto knife and make sure that's actually extended out. If you don't have an X-Acto knife, you can use a pair of scissors, and it's probably better because it doesn't go as, to me, it doesn't go as deep. And I like to put just a bead of glue. That beacon glue, fair warning, if you just give yourself a manicure or have any kind of nail polish, that it will strip it. It will strip it and it will smudge it. It's just that glue is really, really strong. But at the same time, double-sided tape, I think the reason why I usually do paint my nails is because double-sided tape literally takes the nail polish off. So one day I was like, well, if I'm not wearing nail polish, is it taking like a layer of my nails? Is it damaging it? So we have our label in. So we're now going to grab connectors B. Okay, connectors B. We're going to grab connectors B and the back, these are the back connectors. We are going to punch some holes. Let's see. All right. We have our center mark. And we are going to punch holes between the two. See, we drew a 1/8 of inch, 3/8, 3/8, 1 inch. So between the 1/8 and the 3/8, we're going to draw, that's where we're going to draw our holes at. We're going to draw them, the first one, 3/4 of an inch down. So I'm just going to draw a dot. Do that on the other side, 3/4 of an inch down. And you kind of have to appreciate the 3/8 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch because it definitely helps you with centering. And then the next one, we're going to draw 1 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Then we're going to punch the holes. Just make sure, okay, position 1 could be right side up in the bottom. Right. Okay, so we punched all the holes, and then we did the same process to the other connector, and then we're going to mark the short edge. So I'm going to mark where the 3/4 of an inch is right in the center so it doesn't get confusing. We're going to mark, that's the starting point. We're going to mark, let's see, 1 inch on the long side. Right here. And we're going to grab a clip. Making sure that this lines up the 1 inch mark. And then we're going to stitch down this bit right here, a 1/8 of an inch stitch. You know, these industrials are magnificent, but the table space is horrible, but no complaining, no complaining. So we're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch down. And also, I just think I'm one of those people that bring everything to my table. You can put some Decaville light if it would help stay, or you can just bring your ruler over and make sure everything still is lined up. I think that's why I like these Westcott rollers, because if I accidentally sew or something on them, it's not like, oh my god, it's my creative grids. And trust me, I have a lot of rollers. I think I have an addiction to rulers. I see them and I'm just like, oh, I need this one. I have a ruler that's like 1 1/4 of an inch, and that's, I call that my zipper tab ruler, because whenever a pattern calls for zipper tabs to go with, you know, the number 5 zipper, it's 1 1/4, so it's like cool. So we're going to do that on the other side as well. Find the 1 inch mark and the area, where you mark that little, the top, make sure it's facing towards the bag. I'm going to make sure that's at 1 inch, and then we're going to bring this over. If I can grab my threads, and I'm going to smush down the bag a little bit, and then I'm going to just bring my ruler over and just ensure that it's exactly on the 1 inch. Come on, threads. I just do a little back stitch. Okay. All right. These nippers are getting dull. Let's see. Rethread my machine. Okay, so we have that. And now we're going to grab the main pattern piece, and we're going to be making some marks and whatnot. So again, on the main pattern piece, that's the lining. She does a really cool thing where, let's see if I can get this done right, where her pattern pieces actually have the measure, like the, just do it this way. I already had it folded. So you just find the line to crease them. And I'm just going to find my center marks and match the center of the paper. She has the area where you're going to fold over the pattern pieces to put your connectors on. Let me grab those. So she has it where you're going to position position. So you're going to remove the small piece of tape. I was wrong to put tape on the back of that. I regret that already. Okay, hold on. You're going to remove the small piece of tape. And you're going to position your connector. And you're only removing that small piece of tape because we're going to lift this up like so. I'm going to move some stuff off my desk or everything's going to start flying. you're going to position it like this, and we are going to, where that white line is from the beginning, we're going to do an X. So there's a line that transpired onto this side, and if you don't have it, it's fine. This is when those pattern pieces come in. You can hold it and clip it and then draw it. There's a small little line, you just can draw it. We're going to make an X in this box so that it stays down. It's actually really, really smart and brilliant because you don't see the stitches and you get the security of it. I actually think this is pretty cool. So she has it going like a diamond shape, and we're going to do the same thing. And if your lines disappeared similar to like I had it, it's perfectly fine. It's a reinforcement stitch between every layer. We're going to be going from there. All right. So I'm going to keep the paper on here so that way I'm not going to lose anything. We're going to start. It's just a big head. Oh no. Oh, that happened. It's cool. We'll get a new needle. Sometimes I pull the threads too tight and it kind of can bend the needle. Again, when I'm telling you I have like Hulk hands, I am not fabricating the truth to you. It is real, and and I have freakishly strong hands. I'm okay with it. I'm going to be trying a different needle. A different brand, I'm sorry. Make sure that your needle's in the correct position, because sometimes when you get skip stitches or the loops don't look correct, it's just to be the needle's not threaded right, or it's not in the right position. All right, grab these threads. Okay, let's see. One second. Let's see. One second. My machine wants to act a little wonky, but this is a part of sewing. It all happens. It all happens. I will be right back. There he is. I am sorry about that. When I bent the needle, I had to just make sure there was no metal or anything inside the feed dogs, and I didn't want to do that on camera because that takes me a while. All right, so we were at putting your powder piece here, and I'm going to show you one. This one's already done, stitched down, but this one's not. So what we're going to do is, this is how how the pattern piece is laying is how your template's going to be. So you're going to lay this down, peel back that piece of paper on the top of the back of your connector, and it should stick. I'm going to reposition it. I'm going to match this up so that I'm not trying to match the O-ring. I'm trying to make sure this is flush against the pattern piece. And I have this right here. Then we are going to kind of draw a diamond with our, to help anchor it. So I'm going to take this over to my machine. And not hold the thread so tight that the needle breaks again. Make sure you backstitch. I'm going down. And when I'm stopping, I'm in the needle down position. Across. And I'm pivoting even more. And then up the other part of the X. So you could draw the X. No one's going to see it. It's going to be enclosed. So you can just draw it if you want, or go freehand. Whatever's easier for you. And we're going to snip those threads. All right. Then we're going to peel back the paper and line it up again to the pattern piece. I'm going to remove the pattern piece right now, and we're going to top stitch. Now we're going to top stitch basically where our stitching that we did in the beginning ends and begins, and we're going to pull the threads to the back. So you want to start on one side, and you can just, if you're able to get it in that hole that you stopped at, it will be a tremendous help. If not, if you're using the same thread, nobody will know. 1/8 of an inch down. Then across. And then 1/8 of an inch going up. This will be a key place to have some contrasting stitching, because it will act as like as a feature to the bag and show your sewing skills. Okay, then we're going to grab our threads and we're going to pull them from behind here. Pulling the bobbin thread, tuck it a little bit, and then you'll see the top thread loop. Pull it out, and you can see the diamond. Well, I mean, the hourglass? Yeah. And I'm just going to couple knots in this. Okay, we have a really pretty exterior, and then we're going to get a hole punch because we're going to do some measuring. We're going to measure 5/8 of an inch down from the very top, and then 2 inches for the top of the connector, not the top of the bag. I always like to draw out my dots, because if it looks off when I'm drawing it, it will look worse when I'm punching the holes in it. 5/8 of an inch. 2-inch. All right, let me move this pattern piece, grab my hole puncher. And normally, like I said, I would be at my desk with a rubber mat and my little mallet and my cutting board and punch a hole. But it's not easy to do on camera for me unless I'm at the table, and that's a lot of positioning the cameras. I'm not that tech savvy yet. I don't have different camera stations. It's whatever I set up. All right, so we have our hole punch. And then I'm going to grab 4 males. And 4 females for the top and bottom of the caps. And then I'm just going to stick the males through the holes. Flip it real quick. Put the caps on. I like to do this all at once because I am notorious for forgetting like one rivet, like not setting it, and then like your bag's made and you have to go through the lining, and it's not fun. Huh? Okay, that's done. And we're going to basically do the same exact thing with the back piece, except the back piece you're going to have the pattern pieces B, the connectors, and you're going to punch out 4 holes. You're going to slip your D-rings, or in my case, rectangle rings, on to the connector, and it's going to leave a little bump. And then from the holes that you punched previous in here, you just... Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. It's raining here and the weather is just doing a lot of stuff to the internet. Me and Fios right now, I feel bad because I know it's going out for everyone, so I'm not going to complain. We're going to keep progressing forward. You're going to, when you stitch down the connector, your connector is going to get caught into that 1/8 of an inch seam. You're going to have the holes that we punched previously out. You slide your D-ring in, or your rectangle ring, or your O-ring, whatever you have in hand. You then trace where on the dots where it lands. You punch out those holes, and you see that there's a little bit of room for the back. So we have that. We have our front and our back. Then the next step was step 37, but we did this already when we put together the lining. We did this already, so we are good on that. All right, we're going to be doing some of the fun stuff. Well, it's all fun. That's not kid ourselves. We are going to try to move this a little closer. We're going to put these right sides together, and I'm going to trim any rogue threads. What I like to do, we're not sewing the bottom, but I like to take the bottom piece and make sure that these two connectors are, the connectors are matching. So when I hold them by the handle, they'll match. And if I'm a little off, then I can do things to fix it now. You're clipping or unpicking. And I just don't like anything to shift. This is my first time making this bag, so I'm just clipping first. clips, clips, clips. I always like to put something on the top and the bottom so there's no shifting. Gonna grab some more clips. Just clip as you go. Okay, so we're going to sew down the sides at 3/8 of an inch, back stitch well at the beginning and end. I'm just going to fold this in. And it'll get a little bit bulky where that connector part is. At that point, I would definitely recommend using a walking foot attachment. I use a walking foot on my Bernina a lot, and my brothers. They're heaven sent. They're chef kisses. Sometimes it just depends on. Try to, if you can, stick with the brand. See if there's someone locally that's willing to trade or whatnot. Like my Bernina 108, I could not find the walking foot for cheaper than $100. I went to an estate sale and I got one for $5, and I was like, yeah. And then I got some other not walking feet, but other feet for it through different estate sales, eBay. eBay's kind of hit or miss because I like to get like authentic Bernina pieces, but Bernina feet are some of the most expensive feet I've ever purchased, but they're so worth it. Bernina's one of my favorite sewing machines to sew on. I was sewing my husband's camp shirt, and I love the way it looks. All right, so we have this all. We have the exterior, the sides. So we're gonna grab our base. And remember, I said mark those areas, the centers and whatnot. So we're going to mark the first center. Not mark, clip. I'm gonna clip in. I'm clipping the center, all the matching points. And then I'm going to meet the curve with the 3/8 seam allowance, 7-inch seam allowance. Do that on this side. And I'm just going to tuck. I think actually, because this particular designer has you doing two Decaville heavies, the fabric automatically wants to kind of sink in because the stabilizer is so heavy. So I have a feeling this is going to be like one of those bags that has the perfect bottom because of the math and science behind it. If something's heavier in the middle, it's automatically going to want to sink in. It's very clever. And butterfly open your seam allowances on the side so that it's, when you sew it, it's even. I'm going to use a lot of clips because I don't want any ripples or puckers. And if you want, you could use a staple. But again, if you're not new to my channel, then you know I am petrified. If you're new, I'm petrified of staple. I have like a scar on my knee. My abuelita was putting up flowers. I used to live in California, not flyers. I lived in California for like some meeting from the homeowners association, and I was playing with the staple gun, and on my knee I have a scar from where I stapled a flyer to my knee. So me and staples are not the business. And if you ever watched the 70s show, Michael Kelso would always get something in his eyes. I'm forever getting something in my eyes. For this reason, I try to prevent staples. I have a friend that whenever she shows anything, she wears like special like glasses goggle, because she had a staple that like clipped her eye, like not in her eye, but like on the eyelid. I was like, oh my God. So whoever says sewing is not risky business, they don't know. They don't know. I'm just trying to make sure all the raw edges meet. Nothing gets sunken in too much where it's like off 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. Getting it to be as close as possible to raw edge to raw edge. Could be a little task consuming, but it's worth it at the end result. That's why the prep work is so pivotal. And I know sometimes we want to skip these steps because we want to get right into the bag making, but that's a part of bag making that is super crucial to almost every bag. Is the work you put in prior. So I think I have like 50 million clips on here. It's cool. And she suggests we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch our first, and to have the bag positioned so the sewing machine is on the exterior facing down. Let's do this. And put your hand inside the bag so you can help navigate it and push out anything that's like, you know, is trying to get sunk back in. So I'm going to pull out my threads so that way they're not in the machine already. And I'm going to grab my stiletto and I'm going to take a few stitches forward and lock it in the back. Okay. My hand is inside the bag, much like you would do with turkey on Thanksgiving. The 2 is my 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Take your time. Move one clip at a time. If you get a crinkle, try to pull the crinkle above your stitch line, not below. Anything in below will make it show on the outside. And the reason why I like the stiletto, because the stiletto can go where my finger can't go. And pull and tug where needed. Oh, I get asked this a lot. This is the Juki 1541, and my foot is different. My foot I purchased from Steve from Sewing Go. He helped design this really cool narrow foot for this And I barely use any other feet on here unless I'm making piping. I'll use my wilting foot. But other than that, this is my dream foot. Yes, there's writing on the bottom of my bag. Okay, so I see a lot of people ripping apart, like they'll go to the Salvation Army and they'll get like a Dooney and Burke and rip it apart and to see what kind of materials they use to the bags, right? And I figured if someone did that to my bag, I would like to have a message. So I put the date that I make it, and sometimes I'll put like corny messages like Happy Halloween, or you're taking apart me and it took a long time for me to be put together. Like just corny little messages. I'm not saying I'm anywhere close to Dooney and Burke. I just have a warped sense of humor. So if someone does by chance. And why I got that from is from actually quilters. I say it all the time that I feel like all of our sewing, different sewing, whether it's garment or bag making or clothing, we all can quilting, we all can learn from one another. Quilters, from beginning of time, most quilters that make quilting blankets have their name or initials somewhere into the bag. There's like so many different quilts that have like initials from like hundreds of years ago. So, you know, people still do that now. So that way, if your quilt ever ends up in some kind of like museum or Smithsonian, they can date it back to, you know, the person who made it and, you know, so forth, blah, blah, blah. I figured, why not do that for bags? Because what happens if like 50 years from now, somebody takes this bag and like, how did they do this base? Well, they'll see my signature and the date that I did it, so it will help. All right, so we sewed this around at 1/4 of an inch. Now we're gonna go around again. I like the shape of this bag. We're gonna go around this again and do it 1/8 of an inch above the stitch line we just made. This is super clever because basically you basted it on and then you're doing one stitch above. It's giving you reinforcement stitching and making sure that you have no wrinkle or crinkle above that. That's really quite brilliant. So 1/4 of an inch above that will make it 3/8 of an inch. So that's 3. This side should be a lot easier because you already sewed it down. And you might want to put your hand in the bag so that way you can maneuver a little better. That's genius. Oh yeah, this designer has some really cool skills that are great to have in bag making. By doing that 1/4 of an inch, you have a basting stitch that's permanent. And then going just 1/8 of an inch above that, it's exactly at 3/8 of an inch. And it's ensuring that you have a perfectly nice round oval bottom. I think that is genius. And I appreciate it 100%. My stabilizer wanted to get caught in my foot. It does really help to have your hand inside the bag so it doesn't push it away. All right. Woo. Okay. All right. We got that part done. I'm just having pattern pieces fly all over the place. Okay, we have that part done. We sewed the 1/8 of an inch around it, and then we should see just 1/8 of an inch between the stabilizer and the our last row of stitching, and it leaves the bottom flat, and it'll help keep it flat after you're turning. Now we're going to make the top band. I'm going to put this aside. grab the top band pieces. There's 4 pieces. There's the piece H. And that's the connectors. Please say I didn't disappear. And I can hear my daughter squealing with the puppy. This is one of those days, but we will persevere. As soon as I figure out what my daughter's doing. And I believe I just lost where did I put it? Shunova. I promise you, every single time, there's always like a mystery piece that just disappears. Okay. I'm gonna go look for it and then I will be right back. And I promise, hopefully this will be the last time I disappear and reappear again. Okay, sorry about that. So I actually had to cut out piece I again because that piece is just MIA. And watch, as soon as I stand up, it will be there. That's how it works. So we're going to grab pieces H and I. And we are going to sew them on at 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to butterfly them and top stitch the on both sides 1/8 of an inch down. But before I top stitch this last one, I'm going to test it over my exterior piece to make sure it fits nice and snugly. So if it is a little bit off, I can like maybe pick the seam and make a little bit more room. So I did 3/8 of an inch. See. I'm going to grab our exterior and I'm just going to do a little butterfly, a little test over this to make sure it fits. I'm going to slide it on over and just match seam to seam. And it's going to fit nicely, perfectly when we do our final stitching. So I'm going to continue remaining with this butterfly on this side, 1/8 of an inch both down each side. And it helps butterflying them open so you're not trying to finagle with it when you're trying to put the bag together. Gonna hop over 1 stitch and then do a 1/8 of an inch on the other side. All right. And so I got all the threads. All right, so we're going to put this on the side. I'm going to put this inside my exterior bag so it doesn't disappear in Narnia. We're going to now grab our recess panel J, and then we are going to mark 3/8 of an inch all on one side. And 3/4 of an inch on the other side. Put double-sided tape on the edge of the 3/4 of an inch. Remove it and stick it to the line that you made. On the 3/8 of an inch, on the exterior pieces only, mark where 1/2 inch is on both sides. On one side or whatever's easier. Then we're going to grab our 16.5-inch tape. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure, don't disappear, measure on one side like 3/4 of an inch down, fold the tape on itself, and then it creates like little, it looks like a t-shirt, actually, like a sweetheart t-shirt. And you're going to stitch down on the sides to keep the tape like this. Now, there are some people that I've seen that can just hit it with some fire and it melts on both sides. I've done that once and it was magical, and then I haven't been able to recreate it. I like to hand stitch, or I get magic pins and stick it in and then go over it with the sewing machine. Magic pins are meant to be sewn over. I don't know how it works. It's straight Harry Potter magic. So, but I use that sometimes to help it come along. And there's more tips on page 43 with beacon glue and how you can do it that way too. I have actually never seen it done with beacon glue. I'm going to try that next time. Okay, so place the exterior side with a 3/8 of an inch. This little nugget that's poking out is going to drive me a little batty. Right sides touching where the 1/2 inch mark is. And we're going to put a clip. And we're going to clip all the way down. On the fold, we do not sew all the way to the end. We stop at before the very edge. So we're going to sew this panel on with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. If I can grab the threads, I promise you I'm better than that. So start at that 1/2 inch mark and do a few backs. Just do like 1 or 2 back stitches, and we're going 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to stop right here and just do a back stitch. We're not going all the way to the end. And grabbing, snipping our threads really close. Now we're going to grab our lining and put it right on top. I'm going to put a clip. And we're going to start on the fold, do one little back stitch, not all the way on it, and we're going to do this at 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to clip it on this side to make sure that it doesn't shift. Right on the fold. And we're doing 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to go across that 3/8 of an inch line we made. So you're going to pivot. And back stitch off. trimming the threads. And then we're going to turn to page 45 and we're going to snip into at an angle on the top part of the zipper and trim down. And we are going to turn this right sides out. And I'm going to use, that's not going to work. Hold on. Oh, where am I? I'm going to use these Hemistops. They have a nice blunt edge and just poke out that corner a little bit more because I can't find any of my point turners apparently. I'm going to start clipping this in place. Give that a, I like to always like tug a little bit on my zipper panels because the lining and the fabric want to kind of like roll back into the zipper. And then we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So if you're like top stitching and it's kind of wonky, start at the closed edge first, so that way you can just get the rhythm of your machine to close the edge. And it also helps with like making sure everything's stabilized. Then go down, 1/8. And we're going to trim off, not lose pieces on the table excess. We're going to repeat this process. I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch mark on this side. Place the exterior side, meaning the exterior part of the zipper as well. So right side's touching. Pop some clips in, as many or as few as you want. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever feels great to you. Then we're gonna stitch this down using 1/8 of an inch. We're stitching right before it closes, like this. Let me see if I can get you closer. Like right here, like not even 1/8 of an inch, but do not start your stitching there. It won't give you a clean finish. So we're going to do 1/4 of an inch, one back stitch. And we're going to stop right at the 1/2 inch mark, and we're just going to snip our threads. And you really want to make sure your threads are snipped a lot on here, because you don't want an old thread getting caught with something else. It just will make it frustrating. All right, so we're going to clip I'm just going to clip this on this side too so that I can help balance. Clip this, and we're going to be doing the 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch. And we're going to sew 3/8 of an inch all the way down. And again, when you get to that little lip, you want to go barely on it and back stitch off, but you're not going all the way to the end. Let's see. I'm going to trim down this top part and then cut it at an angle so that way it can come out nicely. I do not trim into your zipper tape at all, but you can, like the meat around it, we are going to get those hemostats and poke out the corners. Let's see. Grabbing some clips and putting everything together so it can meet up all nicely. Oh, I always just give the fabric a little bit of tug because with all that stitching, like the zipper wants to roll in on itself, and that's no good for me. Okay, we're going to start with the opening so you can help close it and keep everything aligned. 1/8 of an inch. Super cute. I always have this thing with gray and blue. Just so nice. All right, so we're going to find our centers. So I'm going to put, before I put this anywhere, I'm going to clip here, and I'm going to put a little snip in the center. And I'm going to get our section 8 HI piece and do the same thing. So I'm going to put clips on the seams, finding our centers, and that is the main goal. Like when I first was in bag making, I would eyeball everything and I was trying to figure out why is something looking a little off, and it was off by like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 or 3/8 or whatever. And I was really bad at finding my centers. So it's something that I always have to remind myself because sometimes I don't want to find the centers. I'm like, yeah, I'll eyeball it, and it never works out. So take your time, find your centers, and everything will work out beautifully. All right, so we're going to take this and we're going to take one, and they're going to be right sides together. So I'm going to clip this in here, and then I'm going to go on the other side and the right side's touching, so you should see the wrong side of the zipper tape and your interior fabrics. And we are going to baste them. So I'm just going to baste them at 1/8 of an inch. You could do it from the interior, the exterior, whatever is easier for you. I've actually never done a recessed panel like this before, or like it's like a fully constructed band and you're sewing a zipper on. I think this is pretty cool. Again, I love learning new techniques, and like when you're like doing a designer's thing, you're kind of like in their brain and their headspace and how they do their math and all this. It's pretty cool. Just make sure that your zipper tails are facing the same direction and coming out the same end, and you're gonna be fine. Let's see. Okay, so we have that. We are now going to grab our 2 crossbody connectors, which is pattern piece C. And we're going to grab your D-rings, your O-rings, whatever you have. I didn't have enough D-rings, so I am using rectangle rings. And we're going to put them on, and we're going to baste the ends at 1/8 of an inch. And make sure, if you did a good job, make sure you do like the bend test to make sure you can see where the white or the inside is, so that way that inside is not on the outside. Trust me, I have done that so many times. So many times. And I'm just going to double check again and do that over here. Just 1/8 of an inch. It's just spacing them down so that it helps keep everything aligned and in. Okay. And then we are going to put the connectors, we're going to baste the band. If you see on 155, the picture 155, you're going to base it right there in the center. And then do the same thing on that side. Going to make sure this is centered and then grab the other side real quick. Just feed that in. All right. Okay. All right, we have that all squared away. And you know what? I don't think I sewed up the lining, so I need to do that real quick. We're going to sew that up at 3/8 of an inch because we're going to put this inside the lining. Come here, lining pieces. We're almost done, guys. We're getting to that. Good. All right. Going to do 3/8 of an inch. And let me go back so I can tell you where to sew up the lining sides. On what page? It'll be on page 29. You would sew it at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance in the beginning and at the end, and you can the beginning and end. And then you will trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 of an inch, except at the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to trim to 1/4 of an inch right here and leaving the top and bottom alone. We're going to do the same on this side. You can use pins or clips, whatever's easier for you. So 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch really well at the beginning and end. When I get to this, I'm going to pivot. 3/8 of an inch. Stop, pivot, and not have scissors flying off. And I do a little back stitch where I knew the top of that seam, that slip pocket's going to be. And back stitch. We're going to trim our threads, and then I'm going to I did snips in. Oh, I didn't even get this side. Hello, Shnova. Come on. Oh, boy. Give me a second. It happens. This is good. You know how to fix mistakes. Three-eighths of an inch. That's why you clip. As I'm not clipping again. Oh, oxymoron. Okay, now that's kind of situated. Clipping in, and cutting this down to 1/4 of an inch. And repairing the part that I accidentally just cut off. Shnova. I'm thinking it has to be the hurricane because, man, I am batting 1,000. But, again, how to fix your mistakes, totally crucial. This is how we improve more as bag makers. And then the bottom will be left completely open and will be turned later through the pocket. All right. So now we're grabbing our pieces and we're going to put our zipper tails, clip them so they're out of the way. So we're turning this into this pocket. And make sure your zipper tails are out of the way and you clip them. And making sure that you have your zipper how you want it closed. So my zipper tails are this way and I want my everything to close to the left. So I'm going to make sure that it emulates the same thing. So this is the back of my bag and everything will work out. I'm going to butterfly open and match my centers. Match my centers. And we're going to just clip all the way around. And if you did the right seam allowances throughout the thing, you should not have nearly nothing to like ease in. It slides in pretty nicely. But sometimes if you're using two different fabrics, like I'm using vinyl and then my sides are waterproof canvas, one can stretch more than the other. So just, you know, because I didn't put any interfacing on my zipper pockets because, not my zipper pockets, my zipper recess panels, because it's vinyl and I didn't want it to be too bulky. All right, so we have that all punctuated and we're going to sew them together at 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so let's do this. If it helps, you can use your stiletto. But the bag is really pliable at this state. Keep everything nice and butterflied open. See. Back stitch. Trim threads. Make sure that your zipper pocket's kind of open. Okay, so we're on page 48 and we are going to lift the panel and turn the seam allowance down to the main. And we're going to the main lining. So we want the seam allowance to go down towards the main lining. So we're going to lift, and this is what I call the pancake method. We're going to lift and we're going to top stitch the seams down. Now, when I always like to start at the side, this also helps keep your zipper recess panels nice and like up. Like, you'll see, they don't want to fall down. So, let's see, let me just position this. And for most part, the seam is going to want to lay down into that position, except when you get to the crossbody connectors. Then it's going to be like, it wants to give you a little struggle. Use a hump jumper, or like I said, a walking foot, or just hand crank it and really take your time. Seams usually want to go to where the bulkiest part is. Like, lay that in that direction. So I'm a huge fan of understitching because it makes the recess zipper just look amazing. So it stands up so nicely. Like I said, every single one of our methods are a method that, you know, a different sewist uses for like bag making, garment making, shoes, what have you. So what we're going to do now is we are going to start doing our final assembly. It's the final countdown. We're going to, oh, you didn't have to backstitch. You could pull the threads out. I did backstitch. So we're going to turn the lining right sides out. Okay. Then we're going to grab our exterior. Make sure you know where the front is and in the back. Turn your whole lining right sides out and your exterior of the bag right sides in. Place the lining in, making sure the zipper is not on the same section as the zipper of the interior. We're just gonna let that sit in, and we are going to line everything up and push, make sure zipper panels out of the way, connectors out of the way, so that it's not going to be in your way when we're doing this construction. We're going to push and maneuver. Let's see. So just clip it. Make sure that your center marks are matching up. Push down any hardware so that it's not in your way. Everything is fitting nicely. I'm always excited with that because you could be off just like 1/4 of an inch and bam, your whole bag is like, I'm trying to ease this in now. I'm going to tell you, I'm already kind of filling this bag because of the bottom. I love a really nice stable bottom bag. Like I can do a floppy bag, but if the bottom has to be nice and stable, because I don't know why, it's just weird personal preference. Keeping everything butterflied open. All right. I'm excited to turn this. All right. I think I got enough clips in there to last forever. We're going to push down the connectors and the crossbody pieces. And then we're going to flip over to page 49 and basically clipping everything together. And we are going to sew with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Take your time, breathe. You got this far. You can do it. Back stitch in the beginning and the end. Moving scissors and everything out of the way. And just keep right sides together. Right sides together, raw edges stitching, raw edges. Push, if you feel your hardware coming through, just push it a little bit out of the way. You're going to be fine. If you have to stop, needle down. Okay, well, again, running out of bobbin thread, not top stitching is always my goal, so that's yay for me. All right. Okay. Three-eighths of an inch. I'm just popping clips off while I go. Just smushing things down, you know, the regular. You just want to make sure, like raw edges touching raw, so that way it could be as even as possible. That's why I try to clip all the stray threads, because I have accidentally sewed my bobbing strings from a different thread in, and it's tangled up really nicely inside my machine. Okay, I'm going to trim all threads. Make sure everything looks as even as I possibly can make it. And we're going to pull through. And we're going to pull it all the way down. This is actually, okay, so when you're on a flatbed machine, or see, with my domestic, most of my domestics have a free arm, so I can top stitch with relative ease. But if you're on a flatbed machine and you can't do it, this is actually the method I use. I sew from the inside out so I can see my top stitching. So I actually appreciate this, how the lining gets put together and how you sew it together, so that way you can top stitch it nicely. I'm just putting clips on the places that I'm hoping that doesn't roll, because the bag wants to roll on itself. I'm just pushing everything down. I'm going to pull the threads to the back. So I'm going to start in a corner with longer threads. And I'm trying to get exactly 1/8 of an inch. No back stitching, so I know that is super hard because that's what we're so used to doing. And this bag's going to have to get squishy with me. When you stop, just stop with the needle down. Take your time, reposition the bag. Reposition the bag. Okay. Moving things out of the way, making sure nothing gets caught on the foot. It's very easy, and then you don't want to have to either repair a stitch or you accidentally tore the connector because it was going against the machine. I really like to try to take my time when I'm top stitching because it is a focal point, and because this bag is gray and I'm using thread, it can be seen really well. And that could be a great thing, or that could be, oh, I wish I didn't do contrasting thread. And again, I'm going to stop inside the ditch and then leave long threads. And so while we're here, what we're going to do is grab my needle and we're going to do the same thing. So these are the two outside. Let me see like how I can show you. These are the, we're going to take the two outside, the bobbin, to the inside bobbin and make a pull in the loop. Once we pull in the loop, we're going to take that thread. We're going to do the other side that we pull on the loop, the bobbin thread to release the top thread. All right, so we have our threads. Every so often I try to get it all in one swell, like all the threads into one needle, and it did it. That is awesome. So I'm going to stick my hand inside the lining, and I'm just going to thread my threads inside of my lining, and then I'm going to pull out the needle and take these 4 threads and tie it off. And it gives it a clean, like, you can't see back stitches. Look. I tie it off 3 or 4 times, and I leave the tails long because it's going inside the bag. Nobody will see. Nobody will know. Except the person who wants to take apart the bag to see, my signature. All right, so we pulled our thread through, like on figure 169, and now we are going to completely turn the bag right sides out, exterior out. And you can look at it before we start closing up the lining to make sure your stitching is all good, and to make sure our stitching is all good. And then we're going to we pushed through the thread, and now we're going to pull the tails through. We're going to punch holes in our side piece. Yeah, where the side piece I is. I'm going to just go back to see there's a measurement, because I tied off that in a knot. Using the needles, you pull through. Push the seams aside in between. Did that. And now we're going to push the needle out. Do the lining, did that. Now pull back on crossbody, punch holes through the exterior. I'm going to do it. I'm lining my the center part up, and I'm going to punch a hole. I don't want it to be too far up, so I'm going to go a 1/2 inch from the top, or 5/8 of an inch. Sorry. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Center it. All right. Then I'm going to get my hole puncher, my rivet hole puncher. And I'm going to punch holes through the connector, through the lining, making sure everything stays lined up. I'm going to do that on this other side. This bag is super cute. This is going to be a hard one to sell because I love Doctor Who. My favorite color is blue. And I just love the blue and gray scheme together. All right. So I'm going to grab 4 female and 4 male parts for the rivets. I'm using a medium rivet. Let's see. Putting the male, threading it through. Oh, this is lovely. All right, so let me get my rivet press, get the hole punch waste off my hand. It's like sticking to me because, you know, we use double-sided tape, so there's that. And we're just going to press. All right, put our rivet press down, take our pocket and bring our lining through. Okay. This part can get a little fun and a little tricky, but it is 100% worth it because you didn't have to like birth that really, really hard bottom base. And we are going to sew the bottom of this at 3/8 of an inch. And hopefully knock down everything like I am doing. Raw sides together, and raw edges matching, not right sides together. So you see the method we did where exterior panels was wrong sides out, and lining panel was right sides out. And then the way when you birth it and you have the opening in the bag like that, then you can top stitch right thereafter, not having to turn the bag multiple times, just the once. I'm gonna pop some clips in the sides of the bag. We're gonna sew up on both sides so that way you can go just pulling this, have one go on one side and the other go on the other. The seams, we're gonna sew these together at 3/8 of an inch. All from a pocket. Isn't that cool? And we got the other side all clipped up. Okay, now we can stuff the lining back in. And then we can close out our pocket. I keep knocking everything down. Okay, so you can close out our pocket by giving the edges a nice tug. And then folding over. I'm sorry, like I'm me and clips. I know I'm not the only one. Close that off. We're trimming down our threads. We're going to tuck the pocket in, pushing down the little corners. Then we can zip it up and then just, this is nice. Let me see, would this be better? Oh, look at how, like, I don't know if you can really see it. It's super, it's nice tight seam. It's nice and tight and everything is like not baggy. It's perfect. All right, so put this hole puncher aside. We're almost done. We're just going to get the zipper on. So she suggests to cut off about 2 inches. So I'm going to follow her instructions. And then I'm going to fray the edges, not fray, heat up the edges with fire so that way it doesn't, like, you know, fray. And then I'm going to guide the zipper on. Then I'm going to grab some double-sided tape because I usually do 2 little pieces. And what I do is I take a piece of tape and I put it in the center and I bring one side over. Then I grab another double-sided tape and put it on the part that's open a little bit if the double-sided tape wants to come off. And I fold it over on itself like that. I'm gonna grab my zipper end. I, for the life of me, do not know where I got the zipper end, and it's driving me super sad because it is my favorite zipper end. It's so elegant. Let me see. It is super elegant. I don't know where I got it. It's either fireweed stitch. I think that's what it is. I'm going to use some beacon glue, drop some glue inside my zipper end. I've never had a zipper end come off, but I know one time I tried to take one off because I didn't like the zipper end, and I put the beacon glue in there, and you cannot get that zipper out for nothing. For like nothing in this world. And I'm going to grab the screw that goes with it. Put this on it. And screw this on. Where did I put the screwdriver? There you go. Okay. Open this up. Trim off this fur. This is really nice. Nice zipper closure. It stays up. It's not sunken in. And then this is so nice. So we have a magnetic slip pocket. We have a recess zipper closure. We have a back zipper pocket. Inside we have a zipper pocket, and then we have a slip pocket. A couple slip pockets. You can wear this as a shoulder bag. You can take it off and clip one of these together and have it more secure. You now can wear it as a crossbody, or you can slide this on over, and this is why you have bigger O-rings, so you can wear it as a backpack. Because at first I was like, why are the O-rings so big? I was like, oh, that makes sense. You slide this through, and you can wear this as a backpack. That is just so freaking cool. Like, yeah, I am so happy that Delva recommended this pattern, and I'm so grateful that Deja Designs let me make it. This bag is gorgeous. I love how sturdy the bottom is. It's a beautiful bag. Hopefully you were able to learn stuff from me even through my mistakes. You've seen machines act up and dogs bark, kids cry. It's all part of the process. If you would like to see more bags made from this designer, please leave comments down below. I will have a link to where her website is and this particular bag. They're not affiliates, but they're just supporting another artist, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping I can see more of your guys's. If you make this, this is a beautiful bag, and I can see a lot of people wanting it, and I can see this really well selling well at like boutiques, craft shows, bazaars, you name it. So I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, if you can comment down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and it would actually mean the world to me if you also can share it, because it helps out the channel tremendously. Until the next time I see you, I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe and happy sewing. Bye.